4 nurses, 2 murders, millions of yen in insurance fraud, 1 death penalty. The story of the Kurume nurses' serial insurance money murder case, as it was officially called, is a long and bizarre one that shocked Japan once the truth was revealed. It has been dramatized numerous times over the years, but the truth remains even more horrifying. This is the story of the 4 women who collectively came to be known as the Black Nurses, and the horrifying crimes they committed. It all began with one woman in particular who would become the ringleader, Yoshida Junko. Yoshida was born on July 10th, 1959, in Fukuoka Prefecture. Her father was a member of Japan's self-defense forces, while her mother was a housewife. When Yoshida was just a child, her father was discharged from the self-defense forces and started work as a mechanic. Money was always tight, however, and so her mother picked up work as a housekeeper as well. As a result of the family's tight finances, Yoshida's parents often fought, and she grew up with money on her mind a lot. When she was 4, her younger brother was born, and her mother especially doted on him. As the children grew up, Yoshida's brother proved to excel at both sports and study, which won his mother's affection, while Yoshida, on the other hand, was often punished, physically and mentally, when she messed up. This greatly affected Yoshida and her personality going forward. After she started at a private high school, where she majored in hygiene and nursing, she soon started what would become a lifelong habit of prolific lying. She lied to classmates about being pregnant and solicited money from them numerous times. When her lies were discovered, she was suspended for 2 months. Yoshida then entered St. Mary's College of Nursing in Kurume City after graduation in 1979. There, she met the 3 women who would become entangled in her web: Tsutsumi Miyuki, Ishii Hitomi, and Ikegami Kazuko. The 4 women soon became close friends, and Yoshida took on the role as leader of the group. 2 years later, Yoshida married a man 6 years older than her. She was also adopted by her husband's grandmother, meaning that any inheritance when her husband's grandmother passed away would also go to her as well. It's believed that this was, in the end, the entire point behind Yoshida being adopted. Money was always on her mind, and she wanted whatever she could get. Yoshida gave birth to her first daughter in 1983, her second in 1987, and her third in 1989. Then, in 1990, 9 years after she married her husband's grandmother passed away. And, according to plan, Yoshida inherited the woman's estate. Only 2 years later, Yoshida divorced her husband and got into contact with her old friend from nursing school, Tsutsumi. It was from here that things started their downward spiral, not just for Yoshida, but for her 3 nursing school friends as well. Yoshida soon discovered that Tsutsumi was cheating on her husband. It was also believed that she began having a physical relationship with Tsutsumi herself around the same time, and this continued well into the future, with Yoshida often demanding that Tsutsumi spend time with her. But it was here that Yoshida once again began her descent into fraud. Knowing how upset her friend was, Yoshida created a fake sensei, who she would seek advice from. Tsutsumi would pay her money for this sensei's services, and in return, Yoshida would relay the advice. This small con proved so successful that Yoshida soon started using it on Ishii and Ikegami as well. Both women were also having marital troubles, so they sought the services of their old friend, who knew a great sensei that could help resolve all their problems. This brought them into Yoshida's trap, and she soon used her skills as a liar and defrauder to bring the women further under her control. The 3 women were soon under her thumb, unable to say no to whatever Yoshida asked of them, and it wasn't long until she was asking the unthinkable: murder. Yoshida's first target was Ikegami, or more specifically, Ikegami's husband. Ikegami had spoken to Yoshida numerous times about the marital trouble she was having, in addition to the sensei that didn't exist. Yoshida planted the idea in Ikegami's mind that her husband was actually out to kill her and her children, and if she didn't want that to happen, then she would have to kill him first. All 4 women conspired to kill Ikegami's husband and got together to discuss how best to do it. They were nurses, after all, so the 4 of them would no doubt be able to come up with something that wouldn't trace back to them. At first, they tried dosing him with sleeping pills and potassium tablets in his food, but this proved unsuccessful. Next, Ikegami tried injecting the potassium directly into his bloodstream, but the first attempt also failed. Ikegami tried again on January 23rd, 1998, and this time was successful. As the nurses had hoped, Ikegami's husband's death was ruled accidental, and she received a rather large 35 million yen payout from his insurance. Yet, neither she nor her children were able to enjoy that money. It immediately went to Yoshida, and Yoshida wasn't done with her friends yet. With Ikegami's husband out of the way, she set her sights on her next victim, Ishii's husband. Yoshida convinced Ishii that her husband was having financial troubles, and the only way her family could get out of the massive debt he put them in was to also kill him and take his life insurance money. The 4 nurses conspired again, and on March 27th, 1999, Ishii also first put her husband to sleep with sleeping pills, but this time the nurses decided not to use potassium tablets, but rather alcohol to poison him. She put a tube down her husband's throat as he lay passed out and fed him alcohol to induce alcohol poisoning. Yet this method proved unsuccessful, and so finally, Yoshida instructed Ishii to give him an injection of air. This worked, and Ishii's husband also died, leaving her with a 33 million yen payout. Once again, she saw none of this money, and it went straight to Yoshida. You may be wondering at this point why the women didn't keep the insurance money from their husbands' deaths, but it's important to again point out the control that Yoshida held over her 3 friends. She was an incredibly effective manipulator who exercised great control over the other nurses. In fact, she made all 3 and their families move into the same apartment building as her, so that she could keep a close watch over them. The same building she made her ex-husband buy an expensive apartment in for her and their 3 daughters. Yoshida lived in a 4-bedroom apartment on the top floor of one of the most expensive buildings in Kurume, and it was her ex-husband that paid for it. She then made the other 3 nurses and their families move in as well, with Tsutsumi on the 4th floor, Ishii on the 3rd floor, and Ikegami on the 1st. She also made them refer to her as Yoshida-sama, and forced them to take care of her children and daily affairs as well. It was also claimed that Yoshida forced Tsutsumi into a physical relationship with her too. The deaths of both Ikegami and Ishii's husbands were officially ruled as accidental, and both women received large insurance payouts that then went to fund Yoshida's lavish lifestyle. They had gotten away with murder, and no one was any the wiser. Yet, it was all about to come crumbling down from within. In August 2001, 2 years after her husband's death, Ishii finally went to the police. At first, she revealed that Yoshida had been pressuring her to kill Tsutsumi's mother, to get her savings, and give up her child, which was causing her great mental distress. But as the questioning continued, Ishii finally confessed to killing her husband under Yoshida's orders as well. The guilt, too much to bear after all these years. When Yoshida noticed that Ishii was missing, she hired a private detective to find her, worried that Ishii might have fled back to her parents' house, and then gone to the police. And she was right. As a result, police began official investigations and determined that Yoshida was indeed behind everything. She, Ikegami, and Tsutsumi were then arrested in April 2002 on 2 counts of murder, Ikegami and Ishii's husbands. 1 count of attempted robbery and murder, Tsutsumi's mother, and 1 count of fraud. Police discovered that she had been planning to kill her own eldest daughter as well, although she had yet to go through with those plans. Her relationship with her children was rather frosty. Despite this, her eldest daughter still worked hard to get her mother out on bail, although it proved futile in the end. Yoshida was tried as the main suspect in the murders, though she continually denied all charges. She was not the one who directly killed them, after all. The men's wives did that. Before her second trial, she released an official letter claiming that all 4 women were involved in an equal game of give and take, and that she herself was not the main culprit. Yet, the judges disagreed, and in 2010, Yoshida Junko was sentenced to death by the Supreme Court and imprisoned in the Fukuoka Detention Center. Tsutsumi Miyuki was sentenced to life in prison, while Ishii Hitomi received a 17-year sentence. Ikegami Kazuko, the first woman to kill her husband, died of uterine cancer in detention before the sentences were passed down, but was also facing the death penalty. Yoshida's sentence was carried out on March 25, 2016. She reportedly showed no remorse or offered any words of apology until the very end. Rather, she flew into a rage upon learning what was going to happen that day and acted violently until the very end. She became the 5th woman executed in Japan after the war. But what did you guys think of this one? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.